Hey everybody, it's me, Boots, and I am here to show off a build. Show off a build to you guys that I have been. This is a build. This is a build video, by the way. This is a build that I've been actually using for a very long time. So it's not a Boots Bad build. It is. I guess you could call it a Boots Bad build. But anyway, just showing it off. I've been using it for I don't know, a year or two. It's changed recently because of a change to sigils. But I've been using it for a very long time in World versus World roaming. And it is my go-to and probably favorite currently World versus World roaming build. And it's a Firebrand. And if you watch me stream every once in a while, you probably already know this build because that's what I stream World versus World on usually. But, not that many people watch my stream, so everybody else here on YouTube haven't seen it before, probably, is my guess. I don't think I made a video about this before. But yeah, it's a Firebrand roaming build. It doesn't do all the good things that roamers do, which is get away from things really quickly. It can't do that. It fights to the death. But I enjoy it. I enjoy it. And I'll tell you a few things about it right now. I'm going to have some video playing in the background with, some what's it called, highlights of me using it, just so you could see it in action while I talk over it. But first, before I start anything, I'm gonna demonstrate one of the cool things about it. That is this. With boom, look at those conditions. Look at that. One hit and he went like, ouch. What am I supposed to do then? What I really want to see is from the perspective of the person I'm fighting, what it looks like when they get hit by this, Just bam. Not bad. Anyway, so yeah, the idea is Firebrands are pretty good at making burning on things, right? Like they're firebrands. They burn people with their fire. But in World versus World, everybody's got a heck of a lot of condition removal. So those burns don't mean very much when you're removing conditions every 2 seconds. But you know what they do very well is if you could cover up that burning with some other conditions to make the burning difficult to remove, which is what this build is all about. So the idea of this build is to, go up to somebody, put a lot of conditions on them really fast, and make that burning really difficult to remove because it's behind all these other conditions. And yeah, so I'm going to go over the build right now, and while I'm doing that, you will look at this beautiful, beautiful highlight footage and enjoy. So originally, this build wasn't Radiance. Originally, this build had Honor on it, and I'm going to go bonk, 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 and instead of Signet of Resolve, I had Mantra of Solace, and I had different rune sets and everything, because Mantra of Solace, with the Aegis Heal, Pure of Heart, it's pretty good, and then I'd have to take some sort of Condi removal, so I was doing Mantra of Lore or Purging Flames, and it was okay. I was enjoying this for a year playing like this. But then Radiance had a change to the Sigil trait. The Sigil trait now says the effectiveness of your things are increased and the cooldown's reduced, and sigils still maintain their effects when they're recharging. And the thing that really popped off because of this change was Signet of Resolve. Signet of Resolve now, as a passive, removes one condition every 4 seconds with this trait. And on top of that, it remains the same after you use the heal. And the heal with Celestial Gear is 9,000 healing on a 28-second cooldown. And it removes an additional 2 conditions. And what makes this really good is if you pair that with some antitoxin runes, which is what I do, that's 2 conditions healed every 4 seconds. That's better condition removal than most condition removal things in the game. And as a passive. So when I do this with the Signet of Resolve and the antitoxin runes, I kind of could just not take, I don't have to take any other real condition removal. usually, unless there's something really, really oppressive. And, you know, Tome of Resolve with its condition removal as well will, you know, top you off if you're really overloaded with conditions. But yeah, this change opened up the build a heck of a lot, because not only does this really protect you from conditions, just that little combination right there, it opens up you being allowed to use Radiant Fire, which actually does a lot more damage for this build as opposed to with Honor. Honor doesn't really add any damage to the build. So you got that, you got you know, critical strike increase, extra ferocity, and then also for the last one, I forget what I'm using. I don't think I use Healer's Resolution that much. It's good, but I think I've been using Inner Fire just to round out my Fury all the time. Anyway, you could play around with these 3 minor traits. It doesn't really matter. I forget what I was using. It was probably Healer's Resolution. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it was. It was probably Inner Fire. I don't know. Who cares? The point is, these 2 traits are very good. And then I go Virtues, because I love using Permeating Wrath. It's just wonderful. Reduces the amount of times you trigger times it takes to trigger your Tome of Justice. Does more damage that way. Master of Consecrations. I use some Consecrations, so this is very good for me as well. And then finally, the important trait, really important trait, is the Glacial Heart. That adds chill to every time I do an interrupt on somebody, or like a chill on a CC and stuff like that. Where Unleashed Blow, Mighty Blow becomes Glacial Blow, chill and damage foes that you disable. So yeah, any disable, I do a little bit of damage and I chill them. And that little chill is unblockable as well, which is kind of nice. So that's one cover Condi. And then the other cover Condis are in here. When I do a CC or an Immobilize, I do Burning and Slow. Slow is an incredibly powerful cover Condi. On top of that, when I use some of my mantras, so like this one for example, on a 10-second cooldown, you slow as well, so that's more slow. And then finally, this is very important. That turns Axe Skill 2 into a CC, a 1-second daze, and then adds bleeding on all your Axe skills. So basically that's another cover Condi that's more useful. And the daze triggers out all of these other cover Condis. So when you hit with a Symbol of Vengeance, you get Cripple, you get Bleeding, you get Slow, you get Burning, you get Chilled, and then on top of that, with your sigils, I'm getting Torment, and I'm getting on the Axe set, I'm getting Torment, and I'm getting Poison. So that's Torment, Poison, Cripple, Bleeding, Slow, Burning, and Chill. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 Condis. Is that only 7? Yeah, 7 Condis on one hit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 7 Condis on one hit. Just had to make sure. And then just to add on to that, to be a little extra mean, is you use your Mantra of Truth on top of that at the exact same time, because it's an insta-cast, so you can cast it right a split second after this hits, let's say. And that covers it with an additional 2 Condis, Weakness and Blindness. So yeah, that's 9 Condis in a split second when it hits. And people are upset when that happens. And the other cool thing about it is, this is an 8-second cooldown, this is a 10-second cooldown. So you could load them up with that many Condis basically every 10 seconds. Or 8 seconds if you really want to be mean. So yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. And then the other weapon set, obviously you're doing passive burning with these things, but also doing major burning by using your Zealot's Flame, throwing it at them. The Cleansing Flame, I don't use that often, only if I'm in a pinch. But then the other weapon set is Shield of Absorption. Shield and Scepter. Scepter helps me with long range stuff if people are being really annoying at long range. Also, it helps me to catch people who are trying to run away with the Chains of Light. Also, it helps to set up some bursts sometimes. So, like, Chains of Light immobilizes, which is also puts slow and burn on them, and it gives vulnerability. So that's another 2 cover Condis on top of that. So, like, if I want to do a burst, I've got a Celerity Sigil on my shield. So when I use Shield of Absorption, this knockback, it gives me quickness and gives them some condies. Then I change Chains of Light, which immobilizes vulnerability, ices them, which is another couple of condies. Switch, and then I could load them up with all these other condies with my damage set. So here, let's take a look at this ward, for example. I got quickness, I got all this stuff, and look, he's in trouble. It's not fun for him. Am I green? No, I'm blue, so I could take this. It's also really easy to take camps because of the fire virtues, like the one, you know, the Grandmaster and Virtues thing. So, you know, he does a lot of AoE damage, this build, so you just take him behind an area back here, make sure that these scouts decide to come in instead of just waiting by the side there, and then you just go boonk, boonk, pull them all in, just do a lot of AoE, and you don't really take too much damage because you got a lot of innate protection on you, and these guys die really fast. And that's it. And then you take your camp. Easy peasy. Fighting 1v1s. You have to get good at this build. I've gotten pretty good at this build, so I could take on most 1v1s at this point. I feel like I'm able to kill most things and not die against most things. If not everything at this point. The hardest thing for me recently was a Harbinger, because Harbinger with Antitoxin Runes just has so much Condi clear. And they do quite a bit of damage as well. But recently I realized I could start taking Wall of Reflection, because it seems like a lot of roamers these days. Instead of, okay, so these are my utilities. Let's go over the utilities real quick. Obviously, the Signet of Resolve is your heal. It's fantastic. Mantra of Truth for the cover condies. And also, it's like a offensive defense, because it gives them condies, so that's your offense. But it also gives, the condies are a weakness, cripple, and blindness. So it's like an extra Aegis, kind of. And it weakens them for 3 seconds, so, you know, they do a lot less damage. Your elite is the Mantra of Liberation. You need that stun break, and you need that stability, and the resolution is nice too. And it's on a 20-second cooldown, so that's very nice. And then Sanctuary is probably my favorite skill in the game. Sanctuary is so good. It's defensive. It gives you healing, so that's 7 pulses of 600 healing. That's like 5,000 healing for a duration of 7 seconds. So not only is it healing you for 5,000 if you're inside of it, but it's blocking all missiles coming at you while you're inside of it, so that's very important right now. These days, there's like a ton of Rangers out there, there's a ton of Power Mechanists out there, there's a ton of Harbingers out there, so that's really good. But more importantly, it also counts as a knockback. Those, whenever, like, it blocks foes and their missiles from entering. Not just missiles, it blocks foes. So whenever a foe tries to enter and attack you, they get knocked back, and then you get those cover condies, the burning, the slow, the chill on them. So it's actually a offense as well as a defense. It's really good for stomping things. It's really good for rezzing people. It's good for everything. Sanctuary is the best. And then Wall of Reflection. So the third utility skill is up in the air a little bit. I've been using Wall of Reflection recently because of all of the ranged attacks that have been, like, really this guy is pretty much good at a lot of things, but the one thing it's not great at is dealing with things that stand 900 to 1200 yards away from you. So Wall of Reflection is very important for those kinds of people, and it works. Honestly, it's a 10-second duration reflect on a 20-second cooldown, so that's pretty good. Right? Like, I mean, that's really good. That means you almost always have either a reflect or a blocking projectiles ability open to you at all times, because you have this Wall of Reflection, you have the Sanctuary, and then you have Tome 3, Skill 3, which is a big reflect bubble, which you could cast a few times while it's there. So yeah, that's good protection and, you know, counter-offensive against ranged attacks. Another option for that utility skill is Judge's Intervention, to catch things that are far away from you or running away. So again, that's kind of good against ranged things. They think they got you very far away, but you just teleport that to them from 1200 range. Like, for example, here, this Marmox. I'm going to use my Axe 2 and then teleport at him. And yeah, a little bit of a surprise there against that Marmox. Another thing you could use instead of the Judge's Intervention, which what I was using for a little while as well, is the Signet of Judgment, which reduces incoming damage and condition damage all the time, gives you some resolution and break stun, and does burning in an AoE when you use it on a 20-second cooldown. So it's just overall like a pretty good, solid defensive, offensive skill. But overall, recently, just because of how many ranged things, I think I've been using Wall of Reflection the most. Also, you could use Purging Flames against NPCs, let's say, because they just stand in it and take a ton of damage. Also, it pulses your condition removal. That's always good as well. You could take, if you really need a lot of condition removal against something that's really oppressive as well, you could take Mantra of Lore. If you want quickness, you could do Mantra of Potence and some Might there. There's a lot of options. Some people have said you could use Signet of Wrath or Bane Signet for extra ranged knockdowns or ranged immobilize. Those are also good ideas. There's a lot of options with this third one, but like I said, I'm sticking with Wall of Perfection for now. So I talked about the build a lot. I don't think I talked about the equipment properly yet. So yeah, but I did say, so the sigils are Sigil of Torment, which does 2 stacks of Torment for 5 seconds on a critical hit. So it does 2 or 4 stacks on them at all times, average of 3 stacks. Blight does, they have to be near you, so that's why I only have the Blight sigils on my close up weapon set. So nearby enemies are hit with 2 stacks of poison for 4 seconds upon landing a critical hit. So that'll put 2 stacks of poison. It helps, it doesn't do a lot of damage, the poison, but it helps to cover condies and also reduces their healing by a ton of percent. And as I said before, the antitoxin runes, everything's Celestial. Celestial's fantastic for this build. And yeah, on this it was Celerity and Torment. Other options you could use Sigil of Draining, because those axe skills, when they hit multiple targets, you drain health from things. So it's a little bit more damage, a little bit more healing, but I feel like it's just more like win more kind of sigil, but this is more reliable, the ones I have set up now. And then food-wise, I've been using the prickly pear pies for some more expertise and some lifesteal on critical hit, just for some more sustain and some damage, and then some more just condi damage and expertise from the Corsair tuning crystals. I'm open to more new other suggestions for food. You could be more defensive with it, you could be more offensive with it. I kind of like the lifesteal. You could even use a better lifesteal one if you want. But yeah, that's basically the build. Hopefully the highlights that you've been watching give you a good idea of, the stuff it does and how to use it. I don't want to try to go over every situation and how to deal with it because that's a lot of little intricacies, but hopefully you'll be able to see from the way I'm using it in these videos how to approach different situations, how to deal with annoying things in World versus World, and how much fun it is. Okay, that was the build. I hope you enjoy, and I will see you all later.